All right, guys, we are getting ready to get started.
Welcome to the Mortgage Wise radio show and video podcast, where we educate and provide expert advice on personal finance, mortgages, and real estate investing.
Show me the money.
As a result of what we do, our team has helped hundreds of first-time buyers, experienced buyers, and real estate investors achieve their goals of home ownership.
I wonder if there's a connection there.
Here are your executive producers and mortgage advisors, Randy and Veronica Chambliss.
Listen, welcome. We getting ready to have some fun today. I am Randy Chambliss, the Executive Director of Louisiana Housing Authority, but I'm also a corporate branch manager with Geneva Financial. And I have to my right.
I am Veronica Chambliss. I am the Director of Housing with Louisiana Housing Authority and also a co-branch manager with Geneva Financial. And I want to say this first. Every time I hear that song, I want to dance.
I know, right? Listen, I'm the same way. I mean, I'm excited to hear that.
All right. So, guys, today we're going to go into episode 6. And on this episode, you're actually going to learn the 4 challenges you must overcome in your personal finances to win big in 2021 and beyond. Because obtaining personal financial success is imperative to master at this time, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely critical. And I say that not to plan interfere in anybody, but it's reality. We're going through a pandemic right now. It's been almost close to 1 year. March is up on us right now, 2021. A lot of people, lost income, right? A lot of people lost their savings, right? Some people lost portion of the income, and some people lost all the income, and their savings been depleted. So we want to make sure we put you guys in a good position, starting today, right? And to be able to obtain, like Veronica mentioned, personal financial success, right? So we're going to get this ball started. We're not going to waste any time. We're going to dive right into the content. So the number one thing, guys, I want you to be thinking about is we always hear things, or even on the news, we see things about the economy, right? What's going on in the national or even global economy. But I want you to pause for a moment and disconnect yourself from that information and focus on your economy, right? You and your spouse, you and your children, right? You and your family members, right? I want you to focus on your economy, because most likely other people are not paying your bills. You're the one responsible for that, right? And so we all have the 2 financial objectives that we all want to meet, right? The first objective, we just simply want to earn enough income today to pay for our bills, right, Veronica?
Exactly.
And those bills could be your cable bill, your mobile phone bill. It could be your electricity bill. It could be your mortgage, or it could be your rent. Whatever the case is, you need to make enough money month after month to put yourself in a position that you never have to stress or worry about making those payments, right? And then the second financial objective that you want to accomplish, most people, right, is going to be in the future, right? One day you're going to not want to go to work anymore. One day you're going to want to not to go out and build a business, right? You just want to retire, sit back and just enjoy your life, right? But we have to focus on a couple of things. The lifestyle that we chose to live today is dictated by the income that we bring in today. But the lifestyle that we choose to live tomorrow in the future, right, whether it's 10 years, 20 years down the road, is going to be determined by the investments and the savings that you earn, or even business income that you create today. So we have to look at 2 things. Pension plans, right, was a thing that was really, really big. And also Social Security was something that was really, really big, right, Ron?
Yeah.
Now, we all know pension plans is not too often you'll hear somebody say, oh, I'm retiring with a pension plan today. So pension plans is almost obsolete. They rolled out 401k plans to make you contribute to some of that, right? Also, Social Security. You guys know a lot of people right now that's on Social Security, or I should say receiving Social Security, but it's barely allowing them to live right now, right? So we know that 80 million baby boomers, right? 80 million baby boomers began retiring over the years. But the generation that's behind them, right? Those generation behind them is only close to about 40 million of them. Now, the Social Security system is set up where you work today, you get your paycheck, and you'll see Social Security coming out. That money is not going into an account or escrow account for you for when you get older. That's not happening. What's happening is that income that's coming out of your paycheck that says Social Security is going to pay for somebody else Social Security benefit that's retired right now. So if you think about this for a moment, there's 80 million baby boomers that started retiring, and they consistently retiring on a daily basis, but you only have about 40 million people coming behind them, right? And out of that 40 million that's supposed to be working, lost a lot of income, right? And so the numbers at some point, it's not going to be sustainable. 40 million working, 80 million retired, that number's not going to work. So you'll see Social Security income kind of go down in the future. So you can't really depend on Social Security, right? It's a good, a decent strategy, but you can't rely on it. Then also you can't rely on that pension plan as well. So what do you do, right? Well, you have to put yourself in a position of having personal financial success. So let's dive into some of those challenges, right? That you have to not only know, right, but you have to overcome to be able to attain those two financial objectives. Veronica, want to tell us about that first one?
Oh, yes. So the first one is credit, right? So with credit, basically, we living today off of credit, right? We got credit cards, we got mortgages, so we drowned it in debt. So that is a big old challenge. Also, these credit accounts have high interest rates, most likely, especially credit cards. So if you carrying balances, that means you're paying more money on top of what you already owe them every month, right?
Absolutely.
So we would all agree that that's a challenge.
Absolutely. It's a huge challenge, especially when your credit is bad, right? If your credit score is low, right? It's a huge challenge, right? See, guys, credit was really designed for you to leverage, right? To be able to leverage other people's money, or OPM, to be able to buy an asset that pays you income. That's what it was supposed to be for, right? You have a credit line that you have, might be getting, 2% interest rate on it, 1.5% interest rate. Who knows if your credit is good, right? But my point is, now you could take that 100,000 out of credit line, or 20,000. You could lend that money out to somebody else and make 10% interest off it, right? Or you go and use your credit to buy an investment property, or use that credit to go start a business, et cetera, et cetera.
So leveraging.
Absolutely. So that credit is a big, big challenge to overcome. So you have to put yourself in a position to know how to build your credit score. So Veronica, share some tips of how can we build credit scores high?
Of course. So most people think, hey, I need to go and get a car loan to start building my credit because I don't have any credit. Well, that's added debt, right? The best way to build your credit will be revolving credit, because that your credit score is made up of 35% of revolving credit. That's majority of your credit scores, how it's actually calculated through the scoring system. So the first thing you should do is, if you already have credit cards, make sure you pay your balance down to under 30% of the credit limit. So it's called credit utilization. So you don't want to use over 30% of your credit limit. So if your credit limit is $1,000, and that means you don't want to carry a balance over 300. I tell people, hey, 250, just to land in a safe zone, because you do have to leave room for interest, right? So that's one tip. Share another one?
Absolutely. I mean, that credit, paying down those credit cards is very, very critical. The next thing is you just want to monitor to make sure that you're paying your bills on time. Because believe it or not, I had and he was his credit score probably like 690 area, and he had a missed, right? The bill was on like $90 a month for this bill, right? And he missed it. Not because he didn't have the $90, he just forgot about it, right? It wasn't on auto draft. And that cost them, that one late payment cost them about 60 or 70 points on his credit score.
Well, that happened to me personally. That happened to me.
Good point.
So my credit score was over 760, and we pulled it again to buy a property, and my credit score just plummeted. It just went down.
I think we should share that story real quick.
We lost I lost 100 points just from a collection. But honestly, at first I panicked. I was emotional. But then I calmed down and I had to think about the solution. How can I take care of this? To get my credit score back up. So honestly, I just called the company at first, and what they tried to do was get my information. I told them no, I just need to know, why did y'all put this on my credit report without notifying me? So they verified the address they had. I said, no, that's the wrong address. So immediately I got off the phone with them and I contacted the credit bureaus and disputed it. So within 30 days, it was off. They had to take it off by law. They never notified me. I knew nothing about it. It was $92.
Right. Now, explain to the audience why you chose not to tell them what your address was, or your before, because they asked you just mentioned that they asked you. But what would have happened if you would have revealed that information?
If I would have given them my address, they would have updated in their system, and they would have been able to pin it on me. Right. So when I got ready to dispute it, the credit bureau would have contacted them, and they would have said, oh, no, this is the person. This is the address. This is her name. This is her number. We know this is her bill. And actually, we just sent her out a notice. So they could have gotten me if I would have released that information to them.
Right. So it's called a Fair Credit Reporting Act, and it's called fair for a reason, because that law, that federal law, is in place to help you, the consumer, or us, the consumer, right? Because at the end of the day, that information had to be verified. So when Veronica disputed that debt, the credit bureaus had to reach out to that creditor to verify all that information. But if they can't verify, it has to be deleted, right? And so that's why you see a lot of credit repair companies, you see a lot of credit repair educational platforms, and it's designed to say, listen, if you have negative items that's inaccurate, that's obsolete, then by law, those things has to be deleted off, right? And so that's why she understood when she was on that phone what they was trying to do. And that's the education that you want to have. Now, that was a critical piece for us, just because that was the first time we actually together as a couple was flipping the home, right? And so we had just refinanced that house. Like when we purchased the home that we currently in, right? We bought it from as an REO, real estate owned property, right? Bought it from a bank.
It was a bank foreclosure.
Right, bank foreclosure. So we purchased the house at a deep discount. At that time, houses was really deep discounted for REO. And
at that time, banks wasn't interested in being investors.
Yeah, exactly. These days, that's what they want to do. They actually want to be, gross sales, right? They want to make money off the properties. But anyway, guys, it was a good deal. We had our rehab budget. We did a 203K FHA loan, because that 203K FHA loan gave us not only the purchase price to purchase the home, but also the renovation budget to be able to rehab that home, right? So my wife, she chose her own colors, right? She chose her kitchen, everything in the house that she wanted, we got done. But the point is, the day we moved into the house, we had about $60,000 worth of sweat equity that we literally created. And that's the beautiful thing of purchasing a home, right? You can't create equity when you're leasing from somebody or you're renting from somebody. So the day we moved in, we had $60,000 worth of equity, and the idea was, hey, let's refinance, pull some of that cash out, pay off some debt, and have some gold money, right? That investment money, right? We like to call it that monopoly, get out of jail money, right? It's that gold money, right? And so now, as soon as we refinance, we pulled the cash out, we have the cash in our hand. Her credit score was high, 700. My credit score was high. And then 1 week later, listen to this, 1 week later, we filled out an application to do an investment property, right? With the same mortgage company. 1 week later, credit was pulled and Veronica credit score tanked, right? That with 100 points almost.
100 points.
It tanked. And so if you can imagine, we have a deal on the table because we had a contract on the house. We was ready to go. Everything was perfectly. So we had to scramble, and Veronica had to get on that phone and come up with a strategy, right, to best fix that, solve that problem. So we tell you that story because, at the end of the day, you hear some of the highlights that, we're accomplishing, but we had a lot of guys, a lot of stories that we had to grow through, some challenges to get to where we at. And we just simply want to share that with you in hopes that you could be able to work through your challenges really efficiently, right?
Yeah.
So that's credit. So that's the first challenge you got to get over, guys, is credit, right? Raise your credit scores up as high as you can, right? Period, point blank. Number two, the second second challenge is taxes. Now, taxes, like you guys know, if you are a W-2 employee, you go to work and you're taxed, and then you get your paycheck, right? Uncle Sam get his money up front, right, Veronica? And so now you bringing home money that's left over from you paying taxes, right? So you want to put yourself in a position to know that, hey, these taxes is very, very critical. It is something that you should budget for. This is something that you should focus on because you want to get your taxes down to a minimum, right? We're not talking about tax evasion, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about legally minimizing your taxes, right? And that's a certain strategy or strategies, if you will, that can help you to lower those taxes. Now,
and of course, we recommend you speak to your tax preparer or your CPA for that advice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, let's talk about the second thing, the third challenge, which is debt, right? Now, one thing you want to be aware of, that taxes actually causes debt. Let me say that again. Taxes actually causes debt. Well, Randy, what are you talking about, right? Well, think about this. When you go to the bank, whether you purchasing a car, purchasing a mortgage, right? When individuals call us for a mortgage to see if they could get pre-qualified, one of the questions we ask is, how much do you earn gross? Not net, gross. And let's say that person said, well, I earn $50,000 gross. Okay, great. But they only taking home maybe about $35,000 net, because remember, Uncle Sam taking that chunk right off the top. So all of a sudden you have all these different debts, your mortgage, your car note, et cetera, but it's all based on a lifestyle of $50,000, right? But again, you're not bringing home $50,000. So there's a gap between it, 35,000 to 55,000. There's a gap. So that's a 50,000. So that's a $15,000 difference there. But your lifestyle is a $50,000 lifestyle. So what happens? Well, one, people realize that I don't have enough money coming in my household every month. And I'm gonna go pick up a part-time job. Or I'm gonna go pick up a full-time job. So now all of a sudden you have the husband working 2 full-time jobs, the wife working a job and a part-time job, and may have a side business on the side. There's not enough time in the day to do anything, right? And so we have to understand that so we could overcome that challenge, right? Because high taxes actually causes debt. Now, in addition to that, if they don't pick up an extra job, which most will, but now they actually go and they borrow that money, right? Because the credit score is pretty high. So they have these credit card offers that keep coming and say, listen, you qualify for extra $5,000 for this credit card. Listen, you qualify for $10,000. So all of a sudden, the credit score is high. We get these credit cards and we start to use the credit card for living expenses because we're trying to bridge that gap between that net income that we bring home, in our example, that 35,000, versus the gross income, which is 50,000. So that $15,000 gap is being paid for by credit cards. And then 2 years down the road, 6 months, a year down the road, you look up and that person's in debt, deeply in debt. Now they credit, right? The balance on the credit was $10,000, but they owe $9,999. And by they almost maxed out, it drops their credit score. The cycle continues, right? And so we have to overcome that debt problem, right? And so, and also debt, Veronica, you could jump in, like, why is it just important to not get into debt in the first place when we can?
Well, there's a number of reasons, but
I know that's right.
well, I mean, the first thing is, I mean, it causes a lot of, let me see, it causes a lot of
tension in the household.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to,
right.
I guess, dress it up.
Yeah, that's right. You
Yes,
tried.
it does. So it causes issues in the family, right? And what's the number one cause of divorce?
Yeah.
Finances, right? And then finances start messing with communication, and communication start messing with everything else. So that's number one, why you don't want too much in debt. Number two would be, hey, you want to be able to accomplish some goals like purchasing a home, buying assets where you can leave it to your family. Like the good book says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have debt, you can't accomplish that, right?
No, you can't accomplish that. And that just brings me back to the fourth challenge that we have to overcome, and that is living expenses, right? Spending habits, I would say. So you write and you taking notes, write that down. Spending habits, right? So let's recap just for a quick moment. So number one, the first challenge is credit, right? Number two is taxes. Number three is debt. And number four is spending habits, right? Just because something come on the television and it looks rosy, right? It looked like $1 million doesn't mean that you can afford it at the time, right? So you want to have a goal set up, right? You don't want to get into debt. So often we might ask the question, hey, how much do you earn gross? Then we might say, hey, do you have any student loans or you have any car loans? And sometimes, like just recently, I heard a young lady, she told me that she have a car loan that she just purchased about 2 months ago, and it's $1,700 a month, right? But she wasn't nowhere near making that to afford that type of vehicle, but she knew it, right? She was like, you know what, I shouldn't have did it, but I was in a position I needed a vehicle. So we have to control our spending habits, guys. Just because it looks good and your neighbor have it, you don't know how your neighbor got it. And that's one of the commandments of the good book. One of my favorite books teaches that thou should not covet, right? I shouldn't worry about what my neighbor has because I don't know how my neighbor received that, right? But you, again, we talked about that at the very beginning of this show, is that you have to worry about your economy, not the world's economy, not the US economy. You need to be really focused on your economy. So control the emotions, guys. Try not to get in debt because you have a goal, right? And your goal might be to retire early. Your goal might be to buy a bigger home for your family. Your goal might be to buy investment property that create more cash flow. Those might be some of your goals, right? So the next thing I want to share with you is going to be a bonus, right? We talked about those four challenges, but I'm going to give you a bonus. And that fifth one is inflation, right? Inflation. I had a mentor of mine told me a while back, he said inflation is like a silent income killer, right? I'm going to say that again. Inflation is like a silent income killer because you can't see inflation. Right. You just feel inflation coming out your pocket.
It just happened. You go to Walmart for some milk. 1 minute it was, last week it was $3.50. Today is what? $5, almost $6.
Inflation, right? I remember we was big on Velveeta cheese for a while. We used to use it in mac and cheese, right? And I remember, I don't want to say my age, but I remember growing up, like Velveeta was like $2.99, right? Now you look up, it's like $5.99, $6, for Velveeta, right? Inflation, right? Yeah. You go to that $7, right? You go to the gas pump, right? Before the gas might have been 80 cents a gallon, 90 cents a gallon. Now, that's called inflation because the price of gallon go up. So the point is this: why is inflation important to understand and overcome? Because you have to outpace inflation, right? Oftentimes, inflation is going up 3 to 4% every year. Check it out, 3 to 4% every year. Inflation is constantly going up. The cost of goods and services is constantly going up. But your paycheck has flatlined it, right? Because every year you might get that little raise, might be 30 cents or 35%, 35 cents, not percent, right? Cents. So now you can't outpace inflation. So that's a huge problem. So when we look at it and say, okay, well, if inflation is taking a big chunk of money out of my income from my household, it's probably, let's say, taking a quarter out of your income, right, from inflation. Debt is taking another quarter, right, out of your income. Now you have taxes. Uncle Sam, before you even get your income, Uncle Sam is taking about a quarter out your paycheck, right? And so now you have credit. You got bad credit. That's taking a big percentage. So I'm not the I don't have a master degree in mathematics, but I know one quarter, one quarter, one quarter, one quarter, add up all four of those, that makes a whole. That's why you broke, right? so we have to overcome that, right?
Right. And everything is done by design, because it's just not, what a coincidence. This portion of my income is going towards this portion is going towards that. Even in housing, in mortgages, it's said that up to 1/3 of your income should be going towards your housing payment. And that's why we have the ratios that we work with. You might hear somebody say, if you apply for a mortgage loan, oh, your debt to income ratio is too high.
That's
What
right.
does that mean? Because hey, even though you make 80,000, they're still looking at your debt, and they're calculating if it's a FHA loan, up to 50%, in some cases 55,
That's right.
56% of your income is only being taken into consideration for a mortgage. You see, so
That's
everything is
right.
done by design.
Absolutely. It's called capitalism, guys. That's what it's called. Capitalism. And when you look at capitalism, the system capitalize off you when you don't understand how it works, right? So you don't want to be the one being capitalized on, right? You want to
Right.
reverse that. You want to be the one capitalizing on somebody else, right? So you have a product, a service, something that you can bring to the market for value, and in return, you be able to earn income, right? A lot of people say, "Oh, I need to go and make more money." Well, the only people that make money is people that work at the mint, right? They don't
Right, we
want
make
creating
it.
money, but you earn money based on your product and service that you have. The more value you bring to the marketplace, not personal value, right? But the more
Mhm.
business value based on your product and service that you offer, the more value that you bring to the market, and the harder it is to replace you in that market, the higher your income will receive, right? So you certainly want to
Mhm.
be working on yourself, personal development, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
those are the 4 challenges that you have to overcome to meet those 2 financial objectives. And we also gave you a bonus in there, which is inflation. Now, if you're just tuning in, the 2 financial objectives is number 1, you want to have enough money coming in every single month to pay for your current lifestyle without any worry, right? Secondly, the second financial objective is that in the future, at some point, you want to retire and stop working, and you want to live the same lifestyle or even a better lifestyle, but without actually working for that money. But you have to be able to overcome those challenges that we just talked about. So now we're going to jump into some of the solutions, right?
Which is the challenges, if you're just joining us, is credit, taxes, debt, living expenses and spending habits, and inflation. Right.
Absolutely. So the first solution to solving this problem is number 1, having a personal financial plan. I'm gonna say it again, a personal financial plan, right? And that should consist of number 1, finding a way to minimize your monthly expenses, right? Start to minimize your monthly
Y'all should
expenses.
be writing this down. Pass it on.
Absolutely.
If you don't need it, pass it on to somebody else. Your
Absolutely.
children, right?
Absolutely. This should be conversation you
Yeah.
having with your children. Like my wife and I, we have a particular day that we meet as a family. Like, yes, we have family meetings, right? We not only, get in the scriptures and talk about the scriptures, but we also talk about finances, and we teaching them how to be good money management, right? Because if
Mhm.
you're a believer in the Most
'Cause-
High God, He don't give you what you want. He give you what you can manage
yeah.
properly, right?
So they great money spenders, but we need them to be excellent money managers.
Right? Because they could eat. That's a whole nother topic right there, right? So personal financial plan, like you have to have that in place. Number 1, minimize your monthly expense. And number 2, you want to minimize and pay off debts, right? You want to do the best you can to pay off your debts. Thirdly, you want to be able to increase those credit score as high as you possibly can, right? Now, we're going to talk about something most people don't really like talking about. One of the things that, one strategy or vehicle you may want to consider if you deeply in debt and you find yourself trading water, and you're very emotional about it, you're getting into it with your spouse, things are just not looking properly, you might want to consider going and inquire about a bankruptcy, right? With a licensed bankruptcy attorney, right? There are couple of different ways. You have a chapter 13 and you have a chapter 7. The chapter 7 basically relieves you and digests you of all of that without any responsibility at all. You get to walk away free from that if you qualify, right? Certain
Mhm.
criteria you have to meet. And then at chapter 13 is more like a repayment plan, like they're structuring your debts that you have. So you might have been paying, I don't know, $3,000 a month to 20 different creditors. Now all of a sudden, everything is structured, and now you're only paying one creditor, which is the bankruptcy trustee, right? You might be only paying $1,000 a month for X amount of years, right? So that's something you might want to consider, because you could bounce back from a bankruptcy. Yeah, you have to plan accordingly, yes, but it's better for you to be able to digest that debt, be totally debt free. So now you can live your life, right? So people working 2 full-time jobs. We talk about the wife working a full-time job and part-time. The children is being unattended to, right? Who's watching the children? Who's tending to their mind? Who is there trying to find out what their eyes are seeing and their ears are hearing if you at work every day?
Yeah,
sorry, Brian.
Especially overnight. I mean, that's, that brings up another conversation all by itself. It goes into crime. You have these teenagers out there that's, doing these things in the areas, and, it's stressing everybody else out. The people that's going to work every day and doing the things, like attending to their children every day. And I know it's not possible for everybody to do that, but this is why we're doing this, to give you a plan to overcome those things. Now, like Randy said, the bankruptcy 7 or 13, of course, speak with a bankruptcy attorney about that, especially if you're over your head, like with debt, right? And there's this big misconception that bankruptcies are so bad. No, it's not.
Right.
It's not. Guess what? People that file bankruptcy have better credit than most of us.
Absolutely. If you plan accordingly.
Right? Exactly. That's right.
That's right.
And another thing I want to say too, for people that just may have a lot of debt and just haven't figured it out how to pay it down. What I used to do was, because I'm the kind of person, I just hate debt. But what I used to do was, every time I got paid, I had an account separate from my primary account. And it was a credit union I used that I knew, hey, I wasn't driving to Jefferson Parish to go to that account, because I live in the East. And at that time I lived, I was in the East. I wasn't driving way to Metairie to go into that account. And I had no online access. I could not see my balance, but I had money from my paycheck going to there. So the first thing you should do, I guess, right after Uncle Sam, you should be paying yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Instead of paying your bills first. It may sound a little crazy, but you should.
Well, you're already late on your bills anyway, so you might as well save
you might as
money.
well, right? So when I got to, when I finally looked at my account, I had over $5,000 saved, and I just was like amazed. I was like, wow, I actually saved this. So, and I'm gonna make a post. I have this little plan that you can use and may be able to, help someone. You can use and start off with a certain amount to start saving. Even if you start with $25, $100, go through your bank account and see how much you spend on coffee every day. What?
Let's add a Veronica coffee spending.
Look. Now you're going too far.
But absolutely, out of sight, out of mind. That's the key. If you don't see the money, then you can't expect it, or you can't spend it, right?
You can't spend it.
You don't see it. So you definitely want to pay yourself first, right? Pay your taxes, pay yourself, out of sight, out of mind.
And you want to do that with your business too. If you're a business owner, do the same thing. I worked at the bank. I was a business specialist, and I helped so many business owners save money. And they were like, thank you so much, Veronica, for showing me how to do this. I never knew, I can save like this. I helped one lady, I remember in particular, she had a cleaning company, and she made so much money from her contracts that she had from the city. And I was like, wait, what are you doing with all this money? She was like, well, I really don't have nothing to do with it after I pay my employees. I was like, well, look, if after you pay your employees, you still have $4,000 left, why don't you take at least $1,000 or $2,000 and put in your savings account? And at that time I was expecting. So when I went off on maternity leave and came back, she saved up to like $32,000.
Wow.
$32,000. So you just imagine what that can do for her business.
That's crazy.
She can hire more people, get more contracts, bring her to a whole nother level, buy more equipment.
That's right. I'm laughing, guys, just that quick of what Veronica was saying. Then I was reading a comment from my cousin Stephanie Chambliss. Shout out to Stephanie Chambliss, right on PJ's Coffee, right there on Reed, guys, in New Orleans East. Make sure you go out there, right? Make sure you go out there and support, right? PJ's Coffee between the I-10 and Lake Forest on Reed. You cannot miss it. So she was like, nothing wrong with coffee. I agree, sis.
Every day, right? Get them right, Steph. Get them right.
So I hope I made up for that, Stephanie. But having said that, guys, at the next thing, we talked about bankruptcy, digesting that, and you might want to consider refinancing too, right? So if you're in a position where, you haven't missed any payments, but and you feel the stress coming, right? And you might want to take a look at refinancing, because oftentimes if you held on to that property for the last 6 years, 5 years, 10 years plus, you may have some equity built up in there. And the interest rates, right? And the interest rate's been historical low for the last year or so, right? Just because of the pandemic, right? So what happens is, if you go back and do research on history, whenever there was some type of pandemic, some type of war being created, something horrific, unfortunately, the interest rate typically goes down. Why? Because the Federal Reserve Bank, right, they want to make sure they stabilize the economy. When there's fear involved, people stop spending. But to create people to motivate them to spend, they drop the interest rate down. So that's what happened in the mortgage industry. The interest rates went down, and it's still super low right now. But as time go on this year, as that vaccine start to roll out, people start to feel more confident about not obtaining the COVID-19. Then people are going to be confident. The interest rate is going to start going up, right? But for right now, interest rate is still low. My point of saying all that is that you may be in a position that you might have, $40,000 worth of equity.
Especially today.
Right, especially today. You might even have $100,000 worth of equity. We see it all the time, every day, right? And so you might want to consider refinancing, because now you could do what we call a cash out, right? So for example, I'm telling a quick story. We had a young man, probably in his late 20s. He purchased a home like 3-4 years ago. It's a duplex. He lived on one side. He was renting the other side out. So his cash flow from one side was paying his mortgage, right? Not only that, equity went up in that home. It was in the New Orleans Gentilly market, right? So equity was created. He's getting ready to close on his refinance loan with us, and he's going to put out some cash out of that, right? Now, that cash he's pulling out is going to be his go money. He could use that to invest in another property. He could use that to pay off debt, right? We're taking him from a $1,200 a month mortgage payment, month after month, to $880 mortgage payment, month after month. So there's a big difference in a mortgage payment after he actually cashed out. So imagine for a moment, just think about this for a moment. You purchase a home, you have equity, and you could refinance that home, pull cash out to pay off all your debt, right? You totally debt-free except for your mortgage, and your mortgage never went up. It stayed the same payment, or even better, it might have lowered this, right? It might be paying less. Think about that for a moment.
Yep.
Even think about this. What if 10 years ago, you made the decision that I'm gonna start buying properties, right? And one of the strategies my wife and I use is the fact that, okay, well, if we have this go money, right? And you put your down payment down, typically it's 20% down if you're buying a rental property, right? You put
15% if it's a single family.
I love it. Good point. So now you're putting this money down for the investment. But if you strategize it right? And this is what we teach as well, how to invest in real estate successfully. Now, once you purchase the home, you do a little touch-up paint, get everything together. Now that equity is built by sweat equity, like we did our personal house.
Right.
So now you can refinance, right? Pull out the same cash that you put down, right? The rate, the mortgage note may stay the same, but you got all your money back. So now what you can do, you can go back and do it again. Take that same money, find another property, put that 15% down or 20% down, and then you do that process again.
That's right.
Refinance it, pull that cash right back out, and go get your third property, and so on and so forth.
And these are things, even for the people that's not investing or considering purchasing rental property, you want to do that today. You want to do that now, because one, you don't want to be priced out of the market. I work with a young lady. She had been looking for a property for the last 3 years. She didn't find anything to her taste. However, they had a lot of beautiful homes that popped up. She wanted to live in Gentilly. At that time, homes in Gentilly were like 250,000. Now going to Gentilly, 400,000. And I had a serious conversation with her. I was like, listen, when you started purchasing homes were this price. Now is this price. And now she's like, well, this is out of my budget. Right. So if she would have purchased back then, she could have been in a position now where she could have sold her home and profited off of her home. Right. If she wanted to move at 200,000 worth of equity in my house, let me sell it.
That's right.
And made money. So so that in 10 years from now, you want to be in that position that a lot of people are in today. Hey, I have all this equity in here. Let me sell it. So you don't want to wait 10 years and then think about, oh, well, I remember 10 years ago, I should have purchased that home. Right.
Right. So it's the old cliche, but it's true. You don't wait to buy real estate. You buy real estate and you wait. Of course, nothing is a guarantee, but there's a higher percentage in that type of investment than it is in other investment, right? So paper assets versus physical assets, right? It's a big, big difference, right? And so, you want to put yourself in a position. So again, one strategy was bankruptcy might be a strategy for you. Second strategy might be to refinance, pay off all your debt, you're debt free. And the third strategy is you may have put yourself in a position some time ago that you have several rental properties, right? Including your personal house. Now the market is pretty much a seller's market almost. I would say the inventory is super low, meaning they don't have a lot of homes in the market that's for sale. And as soon as a house come on the market for sale, if it's priced right and it's decent home, then people are paying highest and best. You might have 10 offers on a house over the weekend, right? Because there's not enough inventory for people to look at. This one come up, everybody want it, right? So if you have a home that you've been using as a rental and it might be a burden to you, then you might even want to consider selling that home right now, right? Because oftentimes you may have a lot of equity, right? So one quick story, and then we'll move on, is the fact that, one of our clients had about $100,000 of equity sitting in the property, right? He purchased it a year after Hurricane Katrina. It was a duplex, right, in the Seven Wall, a kind of historic area. And that property pretty much got about 100,000. So he's getting ready to hit the market right now. And as he hit the market, he might cash out about 100,000. But what can that do for your debts? You might be able to pay off all your debts, including your student loan debt, and put money in your savings. But what if you had 10 of those properties like that had $100,000 worth of equity? That's $1 million, right? Or you don't need to sell all of them, but sell a couple of them to pay off your debt. Now you're totally debt free. Your living expenses at minimum. You have money saved in the bank. So now you could be confident and comfortable in 2021 during this pandemic and then beyond, right? So that's the reason why we wanted to do the show. So let's talk about the second solution, right? And that is having business income, right? You might want to consider business income just for the fact you get yourself in a position that you can write off some of your lifestyle. So as a 1099, you go and buy clothes, you might go eat dinner with your spouse, and y'all having a conversation with a potential business partner or client, then you can write that dinner off, right? Portion of that dinner off. If you're traveling to that appointment and you're talking about your business, you're going to meet somebody, the same thing. But my point is, I don't want to tell you to write off everything where you're paying zero in taxes, because if you're going to be purchasing a home or a big ticket item, you have to be prepared for it, right? You have to plan for it. So if you know you're going to be buying a home, you don't want to take all those deductions and pay zero in taxes, because now your income is what? Zero. So you want that.
Or if you have a big old loss, then we have to take that from your current income, and that reduces the amount you qualify for, right?
Absolutely. So you just want to talk to your CPA, make sure that they're on the same page, let them know you want to purchase a home. But if you're not in a position, you're not planning on buying a home, by all means, you just want to minimize your taxes. You're not trying to tax evade, not talking about tax evasion. You just want to minimize your taxes, right?
And it's still early on in 2021. So you want to have that conversation with your CPA now. Ask them about things that you can take advantage of as far as tax credits, tax deductions that doesn't count against your income. Like, for example, my biggest thing is paying our children. that you can legally pay your children. You're already taking care of them, right?
Yep.
Ask your tax preparer about
I love
that.
that point.
Like,
I love that
ask
point.
them, how can I pay them and still, write this off on my business without it affecting my income?
You're already giving them an allowance. They're already eating out of house and home.
Yeah.
You're already buying them clothes, right? Think about it. You might see a Google commercial.
But and honestly, they do have to help you with your business.
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
I mean, if you have a side business where you're selling products, where they actually help you package the products or whatever, clean up your area, market it. You might put them on your Instagram. They got a logo, a shirt on with your logo, and they advertising for you. They legally have to work for you. So please understand that.
Right. The baby that's on television, like the Gerber commercial that comes on, they're not working for free. That baby is getting paid, right? It might go to a trust, it might go to the parents, whatnot. But my point is, well, Veronica's point, as I said, which was a phenomenal point, is the fact that your children can be paid and that could be a tax write-off deduction as well.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, we did a episode on the Mortgage Wise radio show and video podcast maybe 2-3 weeks ago. Can't remember exactly what episode that was. I want to say even episode 2 or 3. But the topic of that episode was about how can you purchase a home if you're self-employed. And we went into great details of how to do that, right? So I highly encourage you to go and watch that video. Watch it a couple of times. Share
the first one.
The first one?
The first one.
All right, episode 1, guys. So now we talk about the first solution, which was having a financial plan in place, a personal financial plan in place. And that was minimize expenses, that was minimize the payoff debt, minimize your taxes, and increase your credit. That was number 1, personal financial plan. Number 2 was minimize your taxes as much as possible by earning 1099 income. And then the third solution is investing or buying real estate, right? Now, we talked about, how you can leverage some of your equity if you purchase a home 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago, 20 years ago, doesn't matter. And you had equity in the home that you could refinance, pull some of that cash out, pay off your debt, now you're debt free. Or you could pull some cash out and now you have your investment money that you can start to invest with. That's what Veronica did. That's how we together as a couple, when we came together, we got our investment jump started, right? From there, you want to look at other strategies in real estate investing. Some might be cash flow, right? You might not want to be a landlord. I get that. Another strategy could be purchasing a property, rehabbing and selling it for capital gains. That might be your strategy. Your strategy in real estate might be just to be a private money lender. Like, you don't do any of that. You just have access to capital of your own. You want to lend it to an investor that's doing some great things, and you receive a return on your investment. So many different strategies of investing in real estate, but we'll certainly talk about that in some future episodes as well.
Yep.
Now, anything you want to add to that piece, Veronica?
No. Nope.
All right, guys. So listen, I'm excited. Now we're going to move to the next portion of our show. We like to call it our quote of the week, right? The quote of the week is, failure means you've now learned another valuable lesson that pushes you one step closer to success. I'll read it again. Failure means you've now learned another valuable lesson that pushes you one step closer to success. One of my mentors, Les Brown, he said, if you fall, make sure you fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up, right? So Veronica, failure doesn't exist to us. It's just learning lessons, right? So as we grow through these challenges, and everybody's going to grow through those challenges, you can't hit your wishes, your goals, and your desire without you being tested. There's no testimonial without a test. Life have to know, are you serious? Or are you kind of serious? Do you really, really want this home? Do you really want to be financial free? Or you just kind of want it, right? So people have to understand, I say it all the time, I learned this a while back, that your words, the words that you say, what you want, your wants shows up in your conversation. But your expectations shows up in your behavior. You got to go and do the work, guys. So we just laid out a good personal financial plan for you. So if you're looking to buy your house, if you're looking to be debt free, if you're looking to have more excitement, more joy in your household, then you have to have a personal financial plan in place, and you have to go and do it, right, Veronica?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, hey, listen, guys, again, I'm gonna give you my direct number, right? Tell you directly, it's 504-270-2783. If you have questions about the topic on this show or other questions, feel free to give me a call. You can find me on Instagram and on Facebook at Mr. Randy Chambliss. And also, you can reach me at randyknowsmortgages.com. If you're looking for a home mortgage or looking to refinance. Veronica?
Okay, and you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Veronica Chambliss. My phone number is 504-715-4388. And also, you can find me online at V Knows Mortgages, and that's VEE Knows Mortgages.
Absolutely, guys. And we do have free consultations. We have a no fee guarantee, so we don't charge you for a conversation over the phone, guys. So listen, you enjoy the rest of your evening, and we're going to be signing out. Make sure that you enjoy it on purpose, guys. God bless and have a great day.
That brings today's show to a close.
Oh, come on!
Thank you for listening to the Mortgage Wise radio show and video podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it with a friend and subscribe. Please follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at the Mortgage Wise Radio Show. If you want to learn more about what we talked about today, give us a call at 504-270-2783. Or to view our podcast library, please visit our website, themortgagewiseradioshow.com.
Autobots, roll out!
Until next time, choose to have a great day on purchase, Mortgage Wise friends.
Go home.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.